What's going on, guys? It's Jono. Today we're going to be building out a game freaking changing system that will allow you to scrape or generate hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of leads and send them a lead magnet for free, right? In this case, it's going to be a social media content calendar. Take a look for yourself because this is so powerful. Take a look at how this works. So imagine coming to Yellow Pages, okay? Imagine searching, spending hours going through this, right? Painstakingly getting all of these leads, the contact information, emails, all of that kind of stuff, right? You don't have to do any of that. What we're going to build today is a system where you scrape all of this contact information using a make.com system like this. We're building out start to finish. You don't need to know anything about make or coding because we're going to be walking through it every freaking step of the way, okay? And then we're going to send off an email to people, right? And in this email, there's going to be a content calendar like this where we give them free content that they can post on Instagram, that they can post on their blog or Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest, right? It comes with AI generated content that will be written on your behalf. It's also going to come with images that will be created on your behalf too. We're sending that over to them. And the best part of all is we're also going to send over a voice drop too.
It's Jono from X Marketing. I came across your website and couldn't find any strong presence online and wanted to create some social media posts to try out for free. Anyway, you can take a look at the sheet I created to see the images and content I made. Let me know your thoughts.
So instead of just reaching out to people, asking them if they could be your client, right? Try providing tons of value up front and just wait to see the responses, because I bet you anything, if you master a system like this and provide true value up front, you're going to have a lot more people interested in what you have to offer just by virtue of you being so generous in the first place. So guys, before we get started, if you like content like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be releasing content just like this video pretty much every single day on how you can automate massive systems that are taking up so much time in your current business. And just like always, if you guys want to download a system like this, it's going to be down below. All you have to do is click the more dots in make.com. You can import this blueprint, click the JSON file that's in the description below. It's going to be imported into your account in a matter of seconds. So if that sounds like something that you guys are interested in, let's dive in. Let's start building this out from the ground up. So we're going to be using make.com for this, guys. If you have never used make.com before, it's an automation software. And what this automation software does is it connects all of these different applications together to allow them to speak to each other. So imagine for a second, you can scrape information without a line of code, right? Knowing anything, you can scrape information with Apify. That's what we're going to be using this module. And then what we can do is we can literally search their website, right? Grab information from Yellow Pages. Once we get all the listings, we're going to go through each listing one by one. So imagine coming in and going through first New Water Plumbing, and then going through Century Plumbing and Heating, and then the Urban Plumber Inc., and then Alex Maynard Plumbing Services, going through hundreds of these profiles one by one, searching their websites, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to extract information on their website so we can create content that is unique to them for Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media platform it is. Also images for all those posts as well. And then we're going to save those files, create an AI voice generator, and then send that in an email. And if that's a lot to consume, don't worry, we're going to be taking this step by step. But this is how make.com works. You can connect all of these platforms together into one workflow that accomplishes a specific goal. In this case, it's scraping leads, it's generating a content calendar just like this, and then it's taking this content calendar and it is sending it over to hundreds or thousands of different clients automatically. You don't have to be present at all in the transaction. It's going to do it even while you sleep. So let's get started. If you haven't created an account yet in make.com, please go ahead and start for free. It is free to get started. And we're going to go into scenarios here, and we're going to start from scratch. Now, also guys, don't forget, I do have a full series on make.com, how you can master all of these principles. If you do want to learn that, please go ahead and watch that. And maybe you want to even watch that first and then return back to this video. And we are going to create a new scenario. And the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find these leads from Yellow Pages, right? So the goal here is that instead of spending our time going through Yellow Pages, finding all these leads, we need to automatically generate these leads, right? And how we do that is through a platform called Apify. Now, Apify is one of my favorite applications. It's virtually free to get started. And for most of you out there, if you're just scraping like 5 or 10,000 leads, it will be free. You can do this whole workflow without paying Apify a cent. And this is what we're going to be using. Now, keep in mind that you don't just have to use Yellow Pages. There's lots of other ways to integrate this. You could use this on Google Maps, Google My Business. You could also use this on other places like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, right? But for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to be using Yellow Pages. So to get started, we're going to log into the console and we need to connect Apify into make.com, right? So we're using make.com to essentially have other applications running, right? So the first thing we're going to do is in make.com in this scenario, we're going to choose Apify. And there's a lot of different things we can do here. There's triggers, actions, and searches. Now, a trigger is what starts a workflow, and then when an action is what happens after that trigger starts. So for example, we want to scrape leads as the trigger. And then after we scrape leads, we want to create this content calendar, right? But in this instance, what we're going to do is we're actually going to run an actor, right? So what an actor is it's a fancy way of saying, hey, we're going to use Apify to web scrape something like Yellow Pages. So we can choose run an actor. Now that's cool, right? We've got this set up, but there's a bunch of empty fields here and we got to fill this out. So that's where we come back into Apify. And what we're going to do is we're going to hover over to the store. Now in the store, all we got to do is type in Yellow Pages and we'll just go into Yellow Pages US scraper. We're going to click this, okay? And really all we need to do is just click run here. And once we click run, we can immediately stop this web scraper, right? It's really as simple as that. We just have to run it once. And the reason why is because we need to have this web scraper in our actors list here, right? And once we've run it once, it's going to automatically be added into our actions list. So that means that we can just come back into make.com and we can select that actor, right? So if I just type into actors here, we just need to find this actor so that we can run it externally, right? So we need to find this Yellow Pages US scraper in make.com. So we'll type into Yellow Pages or actor here, yellow, oh my gosh, my spelling is freaking atrocious today. Sweet, Yellow Pages, and it just disappeared. Okay, sweet, I'm gonna have to type that out again. All right, so we got Yellow Pages US scraper. Now, if we come back in, we can see the text here. Trudax, yellow, thank you Trudax, Yellow Pages, US scraper. This looks good to me. You can also click this map here and you'll see the ID of the actor. We can come into Apify and in the URL before the slash input and after the actor slash, we can see the ID. So if you have a ton of actors like I do and you want to make sure you have the right one, sometimes they're pretty similarly named, you can just choose the right actor. Okay, cool. So run synchronously. We're going to want to make sure that this is checked off. This is super, super important. Essentially what that means is think about, a workflow like this. It looks complicated what we're building out, but it's going to be broken down pretty simply. So what happens is that you're going to start from left to right. You're going to start with this. And then once this operation is done, it'll go on to this next task and then this task and then this task and then this task. But the thing is what happens is when we run a web scraper, it might take 60 seconds to load those web scraping results. It might take 10 minutes, right? So we can't just run it and then be like, okay, we're going to go into the next one in 2 seconds because we still have to wait 2 minutes for the web scraping to finish. And what happens here is if you run it synchronously or async, like if you run it synchronously, right, what's going to happen is it's just going to, so if you choose no here, it's just going to move on from step 1 to step 2 before step 1 is completed. So what you want to do is you don't want to run it asynchronously, you want to run it synchronously. When you run it synchronously, it's going to wait for the first step to be done until the next step proceeds. Okay, so that is what synchronously means. And then we have input JSON, build, timeout, and we have memory. Now, for the purposes of most of the web scraping out there when it comes to integrating make.com like this, into Apify, we can just leave the build, we can leave the timeout, and we can also leave the memory the same. And the reason I say that is because if we come back into this actor here and we go down to run options, I'm not sure if my face just conveniently blocked that, but we already have by default the build, the timeout, and the memory here, right? Which is the build, timeout, memory. So by default, it's going to use the latest build. Now, we definitely want to use the latest build because there's multiple iterations or multiple, like what this means is that, if somebody built a web scraper and they continuously improve on it, right? Every improvement is going to be better. We want to use the last improvement because that's going to yield the best results. The timeout means how much time you want to wait before you say, hey, we're going to cut this off because it's clearly not working. Sometimes you want to run a web scraper and it might just get stuck trying to find information, and it might sit there for 2 hours, a day, a lifetime, 2 lifetimes, 20 billion lifetimes. Okay, maybe not that long, but you maybe want to just cut it off and say, hey, at this point in time, we're just going to stop this function. And that's what the timeout is. And the memory is essentially how much storage in Apify you're using at any given time to run this, right? So down here, I have a upgraded plan here at $49 a month. And you're limited to a certain amount of memory. So if you do go over your limits, it's going to stop running, right? So this is how you can, take up less memory so you can get, potentially more runs at the same time. But honestly, I'd focus on maybe just running one thing at a time, right? So anyways, you can just leave these as it is. The memory by default is good enough, timeout is good enough, and build is good enough. But with this input JSON here, we do want to add stuff in here, right? And if we come back into Apify, we go into actors, right? So we go back into this Yellow Pages US scraper here. What we want to do is we want to copy the JSON into make.com. How we do that is coming back into Apify. And if you scroll in here, you can see manual, right? But we want to change that to JSON, right? And all we have to do is just copy and paste this JSON into make.com. Just like that, we're good to go. We don't even have to touch it from there. Essentially what this is this is a way of formatting data. JSON is a way of formatting data, which is compatible with computers and JavaScript and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, for you to be able to see it, you can just type in here like search equals dentist, right? We want to search for a dentist, but let's change this to plumbers, for example, and let's keep the location as Los Angeles. Now, if we come back into JSON, you can see that the location is Los Angeles and the search is plumbers, right? So if we change plumbers here, it's going to change the search over here, right? So this is just essentially giving the scrape the information we need to extract the information that we're truly looking for, right? So in this, what we're doing is we're just scraping plumbers in Los Angeles, and we have a max item here of 10. Now, anytime you're running a scraper, especially when you're testing it, you want to test it with as few results as possible. Because when you're testing it, you're just trying to figure out if it's working out. You don't want to run 10,000 results, and it might take 20 minutes. It's going to take all of your free tokens away from you. So just keep that as limited as possible. And then also down here, maximum charged results, I'd keep it 10 too. This is under the run options here as well. So this is like a fail safe where it's going to say, hey, at a maximum, we cannot scrape more than 10 results. If we scrape more than 10 results, that's it. We're done. We're not going to scrape anything more. Awesome. So we've officially set up this Apify runner or Apify actor here. We can click OK, and we can essentially run this. And this is actually going to run our entire script in apify.com. But before we do that, we just want to add another module here and get these dataset items here, right? And with this dataset item, in the dataset ID, we're going to pass the default dataset ID. Now, if you have horrible vision like me and you have to strain your eyes just to see what's very clearly in front of you, you can just type in dataset ID in the top here, and it's going to come in, right? And let's take a step back here and take a look at what's happening here. So we're running the actor, right? And what's happening is because it's running synchronously, it's going to wait until we scrape those 10 results. And then once we have those 10 results, then and only then, we're going to move on to the next step in this workflow where we find the dataset ID, right? And we retrieve those results. So step one is just running it. And then step two here is actually going back to Apify and saying, hey, I want to get the results from the scrape I just did. So here's the dataset ID that we need. Can you provide me with the 10 results from this ID here? And they're going to say, sure, no problem. Here are the results. And then we can use that. So we'll click OK. And we're going to title this Yellow Pages Web Scraper. And we'll save this. And we're going to click Run. And we'll see the results that we get. Now, one other thing to mention here, guys, is that sometimes, and I just paused twice here, but sometimes the results, they just take a long time, right? So you can see that, oh, I guess you can't see because I paused it twice. How stupid of me. But anyways, it can take some time, right? So when you're running these scenarios, what you want to do is find a way to speed up the results, right? So that every time you start this workflow, you don't have to essentially start from the beginning again, right? We'll take a look at the results, and then I'm going to tell you how we can speed this up. So we have scraped 10 results here, right? And we know we've scraped 10 results because we had the maximum charge results of 10 here, but we also had the max items down here at 10 as well, right? So we have all 10 results. So this is pretty cool. We can open up the first result and we can see, this is the URL. So let's take a look and see what the first result is that we scraped. Hi, Ritz Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. Here's all the information that we need. Okay, so that's pretty cool, right? So we've scraped, 10 results with 0 lines of code, which is super cool. You can see the name, you can see the phone number, the rating out of 5. Category is plumbers and heating contractors and specialties, air conditioning contractors and system. You can see general information, all of that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool, right? And then it's going to give the same information. Now you'll also notice there's no email here, right? But in the initial workflow that we built, we're going to have to email. So we will get that email. That is going to be one of the next steps here. Okay, sweet. So we have the 10 results, right? But maybe if we want to start this again, if you want to start this again, your natural inclination might be, hey, I'm going to run the scenario. But then you're going to have to scrape all the results again. It's just really tedious and it takes a long time. So what we can do is we can come in and create a new module here, and we're going to select tools. And actually, we're not going to select tools. We're going to select JSON. And what we're going to do is select parse JSON. And we'll just put in anything for now, just to put it as a placeholder so we can save it. We're going to grab these results that we just had from the data set, right? These 10 results, bundle 1 all the way through bundle 10. And if we come into this checkbox in the corner here, what we can do is click on that and download output bundles. And this is going to give us all of the results that we need. Now, all we got to do here is just copy this, right? So highlight all the text from top to bottom, including these brackets down here and this bracket up here. Copy this, and we're going to parse this information out. So what we're doing in this module is we're grabbing all of the information that we received, and we are going to use this as a new starting point. So we're going to move the trigger from the run and actor over to parse JSON for the rest of this module, so that this is our new starting point. So that instead of having to scrape 10 results now, and we're going to ignore this warning. This is just saying that it doesn't want JSON as the last module. Usually JSON like transforms data or changes it over time, right? And it's usually not the last. You usually don't change something as the last thing in your workflow. It's usually changing something to have some effect somewhere else. But what we can do is just ignore this warning because we're just getting started. We're just using this as a starting point. So now when we run this, right, instead of having to scrape information, we're going to use the 10 results that we got from Apify. We're putting that into a parser, and we're going to use this as a starting point. And now we have the same data that we got from the initial web scrape, right? So instead of having to scrape 10 results, now we're just copying that data from Apify into JSON, and we have our 10 results here. Now, when we want to start the workflow, it's going to be in 1 second as opposed to waiting 2 or 3 minutes, right? And what this parse JSON does is it's just taking information in this JSON format, right? And it's making it user-friendly. It's making it readable by make.com. So we're taking information that looks like this. If you're new to JSON, this might look a bit scary, but it's taking that information and it's making it into something a bit more user-friendly here, right? So if we have these these bundles, you can kind of come into one, right? So by opening up 3, you can see the URL of the Yellow Pages page, the name and the phone number, and all of that kind of stuff, right? So that's pretty cool. So that's a good start. But what we need to do now is we actually need to grab the email of these particular pages, right? Because right now we want to send an email to these people and we only have a phone number. So we have to get the email. And that's where Apify comes back into play here, because we need to run another actor in Apify. So if we come back to the store, what we're going to do is we're going to type in contact, okay? And the first one that comes up is this contact detail scraper, right? And what this does in a nutshell is it's going to take their website pages here. So I'm going to open up a result that has a website within it. Let's just take a look and see here. We're going to download the output here. And we have this one that has the website here. What's going to happen is this web scraper is going to go through this page and try and find the contact information of this company. It's going to try and find the phone number. It's going to try and find the email, any links to Facebook or any social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of that kind of stuff. So it's going to come here. It's going to scrape this phone number, right? And it's also going to scrape any emails that are on this page. And I can't seem to find any emails on this page here, but what it's going to do next is it's going to say, hey, we can't find the email here, but what we can do is we can go onto the about page and maybe there's an email here, or maybe we're going to go to the contact page and there might be an email here. And in this case, there is no email, right? But in some of these websites, there will be an email. So it'll keep going down and down and down until it finds websites with emails. And if for whatever reason, website doesn't have an email, we're just going to move past it, right? We're not actually going to try and web scrape it. We're just going to move on to other websites that do have emails, because the goal here is to automate the process, right? And we're going to lose a couple in the process, but this is going to allow you to automate your workflow so that instead of having to do this manually, you can do thousands or tens of thousands at any given time. So it's a pretty good trade-off here. So we will come back in here, and once again, we're just going to run this workflow. And once we run this workflow, we can just abort it down here. I think my face is once again conveniently just cutting it off, but there's a big red abort button, and we're just going to stop this workflow. We'll come back into make.com, and because we've run it once, it's going to be an actor in make.com. What that means is that if you come and add another module after this parse JSON module, you can come back into Apify and we're going to run an actor. And because we ran it in Apify, we now should have access to it in make.com. So in the actors, what we're going to do is we're going to search by the actor's name. So we'll come back into the main actor here. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste it in here. And we should be able to find this exact web scraper. Perfect. So we have it. We're good to go. We're going to run synchronously, and we're going to leave the build, timeout, and memory just as its default, and we need to add the JSON in here. So with the JSON data, we're going to come in, and this is the main Apify page for this actor, right? So just make sure you're here. We're going to click JSON here. Okay, and once again, we just have to copy all of the data from here and bring it back into this field here, input JSON. And we're almost good to go. We just have one more step. We actually need to change one thing here. See this URL here where it says, mine might be different than yours, but it's going to say a URL, right? So we just need to delete that URL. And what we need to do is replace it with the website here, right? So what this means is we are essentially going through every single website one after the next. So we have 10 websites here, right? So we're going to start with result number 1. And if there's a website, then we're going to go to it and we're going to scrape that website. And then if we go to result 2 and there's no website, we're going to skip over that result. on result 3 or bundle 3 here, or Yellow Pages result number 3, if it has a website, we'll go to that website, try and find the email, TikTok, Facebook page, all of that kind of stuff, right? So that is how this is working. We're passing the website into the URL section. Now there's just one more thing that we need to do here is we need to set up a filter. And what we need to do here is just make sure that this website actually exists, right? Because if there is no website, well, then we can't web scrape a website that currently doesn't exist. So it's going to create an error in make.com. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. So first of all, let's make sure there is a website. And as long as there is a website, then we'll go ahead and scrape it. And next we can come back to Apify and get the dataset items, right? And very similarly to the first part of this, we're just going to search dataset ID and pass that in. So what's going on here is we have these 10 websites from Yellow Pages, okay? And we're gonna go through one at a time. First, we're gonna go through and we're gonna find Ritz Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. Then after we go from there, from that company, we're gonna go into Power Pro Plumbing, Heating, and Air. And then we're gonna go into Router X. And we're gonna go one at a time and look at their websites. If their website doesn't exist, we'll filter them out. If the website does exist, we're gonna move on to the next stage, take that website that does exist and use that as a URL for us to scrape to find contact information. So let's give this a shot and let's click run once. So you can see the first website came through and it worked. So we're gonna try and find the results for this particular website now. Okay, so it looks like we did receive some results here, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we have the routerx.com. We have no emails for the website. We do have some phone numbers. We have some other phone numbers on here, no links to Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or TikTok, Pinterest. Okay, so that's not super fruitful. Let's go into the next result by clicking up here and downloading the output bundle. So the next one we have here is still no emails here, which is a bit unfortunate, right? We do have other things like Facebook or Instagram or whatnot, but we still don't have the main thing, which is what we're after, is the email. So we're going to come into website number 3, and you can see on this website, emergencyrouter.com. If we come over here, we do have the email somewhere on this website. So if I just search by we have the web at emergencyrouter.com. So we did find this, right? So this is an example of a successful website that we got that does indeed have that information. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this workflow as it stands right now. We don't actually need all 10 results just because we are only going to proceed with one result. So what we can do here is take the download output from this website, emergencyrouter.com, and we're going to copy this. And guys, just make sure that when you do copy it, just copy a result that does have the email in this output, because that's what we're going to be using, a website that does have an email. So I am just going to refresh this page because right now this has frozen on me. Okay, so I have successfully, officially refreshed the page. We're going to add another module, and very similarly to what we did here, it's going to be a JSON and parse JSON module. We're just going to dump in all of the results that we got from here, right? Now, just keep in mind a couple things. We're going to need to switch the trigger from this JSON parser to this JSON parser, right? And we're going to need to dump in that data that we received. And the data we want to dump in is with a result that contains an email. So just grab one result, and that one result should contain an email. The reason why we only want to do one result at a time is just when you're testing, it can take a long time to go through 50 or 20 results, as you've already seen in this video, and as you'll see on the later in this video. So just make sure only to choose one given example at a time. Okay, great. So we have the data here. Now, the next step here is we're going to add another module, and we're going to select flow control and array aggregator. And we're gonna choose as the source module number 9 JSON. So let me explain what's going on here. So remember how in this last result here, we were going through tons of different pages in this any given website scrape. We might go to the home page, we might go to the about page, we might go to 10 other pages, right? The issue is that when we do that, it's going to naturally want to create a new cycle of this automation for every single page we visit. So let's say we visit 10 pages for one website. It's going to want to continue the rest of this workflow and do this workflow 10 times for every page we visited. So what this array aggregator is going to do is it's going to say, hold on a second. Okay, we searched one website 10 times. Let's merge all of the results into one particular search, essentially, or let's return one result. Instead of returning 10, let's return one result from all those 10 pages so that we can continue forward, only having one result for every given business. And that's what this array aggregator is going to do. So we can go ahead and we can try running. It's going to give us a warning again, just because it shouldn't have an array aggregator at the back of the workflow. And we have this array, right? And right now, everything is empty. So we have the input data here, custom data, and we just want to select everything, right? We want to get all this data. And the reason why it was empty first is because it didn't have any of these selectable fields. I don't even know if selectable is a word, but I just made that up. And the reason it didn't have those selectable fields is because we just created this trigger and we didn't run it yet. Because we didn't run it, there was no results for us to grab from here. But once you run the trigger, then this next module is gonna be like, oh my gosh, there's all these results that we can work with. And now it's gonna load it in. So now that we've loaded it in, we can actually just go ahead and run one more time. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shift and highlight all of these and bring them over, because every time I run the scenario, it changes, it pushes me all the way back to the left here. So we've successfully run this. Let's take a look at the results now, right? So we have one bundle here, and we have an array of 3 different results here, right? And these are all 3 results from emergency or whatever this website was. But despite the fact that we have all 3 of these pages, so it technically had to scrape 3 pages before it found this information on this company, using the array aggregator, it's going to merge all 3 of those results just into one. So that is pretty cool. I'm just going to take a look back here and see what we have to do next. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a module. And this is up to taste. You don't have to do this, but I really like this step. We're going to use something called Perplexity AI. And we're going to create a chat completion. Now, for those of you guys who don't currently have Perplexity AI, what you need to do is just go into their website. So Perplexity AI, and I'm just going to log in here for you guys so you can take a look and see what this looks like here. And we'll just create a completion here, right? So in their website, you just got to log in, and then I believe what you need to do is go into settings here and go to API and just make sure to generate a API token down here so that you can use it in make.com. You're also going to need to create get available credits, and you need probably something like $5 to make this work. Now keep in mind too, I believe if you authenticate with your phone number, they're probably going to give you those 5 credits for free, so you don't even have to spend money on it. But you're going to need some credits, and you're going to need your API token to get this to work. You'll have to connect to Perplexity AI, and you can go ahead and add it, enter in that API key, and you're good to go. So we're going to use just the default model here, and the max tokens we're going to put is 2,000. Now, what the max tokens means is it's like it's how you pay with Perplexity, and most AI models is you pay based on a token per token basis, right? So last time I checked, which is actually earlier today with ChatGPT, for every 1,000 tokens, you spend about 3 cents, right? So with something like this, you're spending about 6 cents. Temperature is essentially how creative you want something. So the higher up it is, the more creative it is, the lower down it is, the less creative it is. To be honest, with something like this, I don't want super crazy results. I want it to be a bit more conservative. So I would just leave it as the default. And I personally wouldn't even touch this, but you can if you want to. Now, what we're going to do with Perplexity AI is we're going to go to this person's website and we're going to summarize everything about their website so we get a better understanding of who they are, what they do, what their services are, and understand them so that we can really tailor our lead magnet or our content calendar, right? So how we can create our content calendar here to be tailored specifically to their business. We don't just want a generic content calendar. We want something that's tailored exactly to what they're doing. So with this content here, we're going to choose the role user. Okay. These user roles just essentially define, it's with a message here, it's passing context to this AI model so that when you enter in information, it understands what you're looking for so it can give you the best result possible, right? There's 3 different roles here. You always need a user role, and this is going to act as a user and just essentially define what it is you're looking for. That's probably my best explanation. Assistant is providing additional information on top of that, right? As to what you may need. And then system is just essentially a system role. Honestly, I can't give a better description than that. I'm sorry. And the content is that we're going to ask it, please go to this website and summarize who this company is, what they do, and what they're about. Pretend you're I'm just going to say you're a social media manager and you want to learn more about this business so you can create content on their behalf. Okay, sweet. Now what we'll do is we'll come into this array section here and we are going to pass in the domain. So here's the root domain that we're going to go to. Now we're going to click OK and take a look at this. We'll run this once. Okay, that was super underdramatic. So we just need to make sure this connection is working properly. So just give me a second here. Seems like I'm having a bit of an issue with it. So we'll go ahead and add in an API key here. I got mine down here. I'll delete this after this video, paste it in, save it, click OK, and let's see if this runs. Okay, still the same error. And I finally dissected the problem. What happened, if you saw it really quickly there, is it lagged for a second. So I added the module twice and it was perfectly overlapped on top of it. So I couldn't see the module underneath. So I was editing a copy that wasn't attached to the scenario. If that makes any sense. Essentially, I cloned it like this, but it was perfectly on top. So it didn't look like it was part of the scenario at all. So what I've done is I've deleted that extra module here and I've just added in everything here, clicked OK, and we will run this scenario again. And what is now going on is we are going to go to this person's website, right? We're going to go into emergencyrouter.com and we're going to use AI to summarize that whole website, right? So let's take a look and see what it gave us. So since the provided source does not include a website named emergencyrouter.com, we will rely on similar companies in the plumbing industry. So that is not what we wanted, but essentially they gave an overview of other websites that we can look at. All right, so that didn't necessarily give us the result that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to just copy and paste in. I want you to analyze this website and summarize it for me. We're going to use a different model. We're going to do the Llama 3B instruct, click OK, and we're going to run this one more time. And let's take a look and see what the results are. So in choices 1, message, content, it says, after analyzing the website emergency router, .com. Here's a summary. Overview. Emergency Router is a plumbing and HVAC services company that provides 24/7 emergency repairs and maintenance for residential and commercial properties in the United States. So it gives us a lot of content on this particular company, right? Which is super useful so that when we go and create content about them, we have a good understanding of what it is that they do. Okay, so we've done that section here. Now what we need to do is we need to set up a workflow to automatically generate a content calendar just like this, right? And you don't just have to do a content calendar. You could create a website for them for free. You could create a proposal and send that over to them based on like a full SEO audit. I also have another video about how you can create a full audit doing this exact kind of stuff. You can create blog content and deliver that to them for free. But in the purposes of this video, this is what we are going to be creating. So what we need to do is we need to structure this in a way where we can essentially create a social media content calendar based on a template and then create content for all of these different platforms. So how we can go about doing that is coming back in here and we're going to create a structure. And what this structure is it's JSON. So this is a bit advanced, but it's also going to be down below in the description, not only in the blueprint, but I will include it as well, like the exact JSON that you can copy and paste. So if you are following along, please make sure to pause, download the JSON file and come back in here. But we're going to be building something very similar to this. And we don't have to actually code that. We should be able to just create a JSON, right? So we're creating an object or we're creating a data type here, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a data type where our data structure where we have a post for all of these social media platforms. So we have a post for Instagram, we have a blog post, we have a Facebook post, we have a Twitter post, and a Pinterest and a LinkedIn post. Think about it just like as a glorified list. It's just a list where we have the title of the platform. And then we also have a description for every single platform so that we can prompt the AI to generate content very specific to that platform. So coming in here, let's go ahead and build that out. So we're going to add a data type here, and it's going to be social media calendar. And we can start by actually trying to create this without code or any JSON at all. When we come in here, we're just going to title this array. It can be whatever. You could type whatever. This is just for you to reference this information later on. And it's going to be an array. An array is just a list, right? So we have a list of 6 different blog posts, one for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. And then we have a collection, which a collection is just a fancy way of storing information together. So in other words, this would be a collection or a collection here. A collection is just another way of saying an object. In JavaScript, what that means is you can have key value pairs, and it's denoted by these curly braces. So this is an object, and then this is an object. And long story short, while this looks maybe scary, it really isn't. It's denoted by key value pairs. And what a key is it's how you reference information, and the value is whatever the value is. So the key could be platform, right? And the value is going to be either Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Twitter or Pinterest, right? So the value is always going to change, but the key is going to stay the same. So the key is how you can reference something. The key is how you can reference how to find that information about what platform it is. So you're going through, let's say there's multiple objects in a list, right? So there's a list of multiple different social media sites. How do you find, Instagram? You find it by the key, which is the platform. And then we have a description, and that description is going to be the key here, and it's always going to be the same. But the value is going to be how we can create posts for Instagram, and that's going to be unique for Instagram, and then how we can create Twitter posts, and that'll be unique to Twitter, and so on and so forth. So kind of coming back here, we're going to have a collection, and one is it's going to be, the first one's going to be platform, and the next one is going to be description, right? So we have an array type with the name of array, and then we have a type collection, and both of these are going to be text down here as the type, text up here as a type with a name of platform and a name of description. We're going to go ahead and save that. If this was confusing and you guys kind of lost track on the way, you can just really simply just copy what's going to be in the description, and you can essentially go ahead and create JSON, right? Create it, and you can add in here. Oops. You can go ahead and add JSON in here, generate, and just copy and paste that in. And it's just going to generate exactly what we had, save that, and here's your exact list again, right? So same kind of deal. You can copy this JSON in there if you don't want to generate it, or if you followed along and that makes sense, you can just use that. Okay, sweet. So we have this, right? And now what we want to do is we want to create a post for Instagram. So what we'll do is we'll title this Instagram, and we're going to create one for Facebook, and we're going to create one for a blog, and we're going to create one for a Twitter post. I'm just going back and forth so I can create the right platforms. And then we're going to do Pinterest. Sweet. And we're also going to do LinkedIn. Cool. So we got our 6 platforms here. And we want to provide a description of how we want to generate content for that particular platform. So coming in here, once again, this is going to be down below, guys. So just feel free to copy and paste this in or write whatever it is you want. But I'm just going to copy in certain descriptions on how we want to generate that content. So in this example, we say, please create an Instagram post based on a topic in a niche which is listed below, right? And when I say on a topic of a niche that's listed below, we're going to be referencing something that we haven't created yet. So honestly, you can just forget this because this will be referencing later. Essentially, what you need to know about this is the post should be engaging, and the hook and hook the reader to want to engage through liking, commenting, and sharing the post. Make sure to use any relevant hashtags to increase exposure. Then of the post, for example, #1, #2, and make sure to use a tasteful amount of emojis where applicable. Obviously, do not overdo this. And we're going to go ahead and create the same for blog. So we'll create one for a blog post. Coming back in, description, please create a blog post based on a topic in the niche which is listed below. Once again, please ignore this because we'll reference this and we'll circle back to this later. The post should be well-researched, engaging, and crafted to keep readers interested from start to finish. Focus on delivering value through insight, storytelling, or in-depth analysis, and encourage readers to engage by commenting, clapping, or sharing the post. This is targeted towards medium, so I'm going to delete that. Conclude with a call to action or thought-provoking question. Include relevant tags at the end to increase discoverability. Sweet. So we'll go ahead and do the same for Facebook as well. So you can get the point now. It's just kind of repeating the same message, but we're just tailoring it to either Instagram or to Facebook or to a blog, right? This is almost a carbon copy as before. If you guys want to copy this and write it in, you can pause and copy and paste. Otherwise, it's going to be in the description down below. And I'm just going to copy the last few ones in here so that we can get started on creating these posts. So LinkedIn is the last one here. Okay, perfect. So likewise, please create a LinkedIn post based on so this we can skip over. Make the post engaging by asking a question. Sharing an insight or encouraging discussion. Keep it concise but thought-provoking, and include a call to action such as inviting the readers to share their thoughts or read the full article. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that information and we are going to use something called an iterator. So what an iterator does is we're going to pass in that information, right? So we're going to create the information here, the JSON data, or just passing it into here. And what an iterator does is it goes through one by one, that list, right? So it's going to start off and it's going to go through Instagram. And then it's going to create the content. It's going to create the image. And then once the Instagram content and image is done, then it's going to go onto the blog. It's going to create the content or the whatever, the text, and then it's going to create the image. Then it's going to go to Facebook, create the content, then the image, go to Twitter, create the content and the image. So all the iterator is doing is just going through data one row at a time, or one social media platform at a time in this instance, right? And if we look at the results, we have this massive array here, right? And we forgot one crucial step before, which gave us that jumbled piece of content that looked just like, random jargon. We have to add one more module in here, and we're going to add in JSON, and we're going to parse this information. So what this is going to do is it's going to take this information that just looks crazy, just all mashed together, and it's going to create something that's readable for make.com. It can take that information and it can turn it into something that make.com can use, right? And that's also really friendly on the eyes, right? So we're taking it from that text and we're creating an array like this where we have different essentially lists. We have a list of different social media posts, right? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that kind of stuff. So we can see here that it took this mishmash of content here from the JSON string, and we created this nice, beautiful array, right? With platforms such as Instagram and the description, which is this, right? And we just need to pass that array here, right? With all of these different platforms into the iterator. And now we're going to go through one at a time and create one post at a time so that we can create it and put it into this content calendar. So we're going to add another module here. And this time we're going to use OpenAI ChatGPT, and we're going to create a completion. Now, same kind of deal with ChatGPT, guys. You do need to create an account. If you haven't done that already, just make sure to go to online help, and it's going to walk you through exactly what to do here. So you just need to create a new secret key, and it's going to tell you everything that you need to do on how to get this set up. You just go to platform.openai.com, create an account if you don't have one already, and then create an API key and then plug it into make.com, right? And when you come into make.com, you click add. It's going to ask for an API key and an organization ID. And where you can find this is once you go to platform.openai.com and you go in here, click your profile, you can see use your API keys here. And then the organization key is just going to be in this organization tab. So you click that, you're going to be able to see it immediately. And then once you create that connection, you're good to go. But you do need to add some money. The minimum is $5. So just make sure that you add $5 to be able to use this. If you don't add money, it's going to give you an error saying you don't have any credits available. You have to add money to your account. Okay, cool. And with the max tokens, similarly as before, we just need to add in a certain amount that we can use, right? The more tokens, the longer the response. It's 3 cents per 1,000 tokens. The tokens determine how long the content can be. The last thing you want here is to cut off your response, right? So we'll just use the latest up-to-date model, which is GPT-4o at the time of this recording. And we're going to create a message to create content. So with this message, we're going to use the role user, right? And the message content is going to be what we have in the description here, right? So remember how we had this iterator and it goes through all of the social media posts. And in the create JSON file here, we had all of these different platforms, Instagram, Facebook, blog posts, Twitter, and you have this description, right? This is telling us how we want to create these social media posts. And we're finally using this description in ChatGPT to create the post for that particular user. Now, a couple things that we want to include in here. Maybe what we want to do is say, we'll leave that description here, and we'll also say, this is a summary of the client that we're working working with. And then we will pass in from Perplexity the summary, right? So now we're actually passing in the summary of that particular website and the description of the post that we want to generate. So remember how in this we said, please create an Instagram post based on a topic in the niche which is listed below. Well, the niche that's listed below is actually the summary of the website that we're going to be creating these social media posts about. So just to reinforce that, we summarized the website of the particular lead that we want to generate content for, generate Instagram posts, blog posts, Facebook posts, Twitter posts for. And in this description on how we generate this particular AI response or AI content, right? Just like an Instagram post, we're saying, hey, here's how we create the post. And then please look at the bottom of this prompt to see more about the niche, right? So we're just referencing the summarization of that particular user's website. So we can go ahead and add another role in here, which is assistant, and just say, please make sure this post is polished and ready to be published. Do not include custom variables such as name or insert link here. So that's one thing that we want to do, and we just want to add one more assistant here, and we want to make sure that please do not generate HTML or Markdown. Make sure this is plain text. So what we're doing here is we're just making sure that that when ChatGPT creates these blog or these social media posts, we're not going to have like, dear user, or go to this link here, and then it's like, insert your link here, right? Obviously we don't want that. And we also don't want like this to be structured in HTML or Markdown, where, you know, it uses like stars to indicate how bold it is, or it uses hashtags to indicate the title or whatever. We want to strip away that. So it's just using plain text, and that's it, right? And before we run this and take a look at the results, we're just going to add one more AI step here. And we're going to go back to OpenAI, and we're going to type in image, and we're going to generate an image here. We're going to use DALL-E 3, and we're going to say, please generate an image based on this topic, right? And what we can do here is just pass in the response of the article that we just wrote, right? So we're going to create an Instagram post, or maybe a blog post, or maybe a Facebook post. It's going to write this content, and then we're going to say, hey, generate an image, right? Generate this image based on, oh, it didn't look like it opened, but generate that image based on this description that we just wrote, right? So that's pretty cool. And all we want to put down here is just say, please make sure not to include any text, letters, numbers, or digits. Just an image. That's it. Okay, perfect. And we'll click OK. We're going to save this project, and we're going to run this through from start to finish. Okay, so you can see it's now generating it's generated the first response for text. So we can take a look and see, and we'll look at the message here. So, need a home hero? We're here 24/7. From a surprise pipe burst to your HVAC giving up in the middle of the night, Emergency Router has got your back. We're your go-to experts for any plumbing or heating emergency, anytime, anywhere, right? And then on top of that, it also generated this image here, right? So let's take a look at and see what this image looks like that we just generated automatically. Sweet. So we generated the blog, or we generated the Instagram post, and we also generated a AI image, right? So that's pretty cool. So we've generated all of this content, and it's going to go through, and you can see it says 2 and 2. It's going through all of these different posts and generating one at a time. So it's going through, let me just go back here. It's going through, let me just pull it up. First, Instagram, right? And then once it goes through Instagram, it's going to create the Facebook post. Once it creates the Facebook post, then it's going to create the blog post. Then afterwards, Twitter, and then it's going to create Pinterest, and so on until it's finished. So I'm actually going to just force stop this for right now so that we can move on to the next step instead of waiting. Because as you can see here, it takes quite a bit of time for these to be processed. And we're going to want to grab all these 6 posts and merge them all together. So we're going to use an array aggregator here. And the source module is going to be 17, this iterator, right? So we're iterating through all of this. We're grabbing the information and we're bundling it up together. So when we iterate, we go one at a time through it, right? And you can see here, we ran this 4 times, right? And we'd run it 6 times until it is completed. Now, the issue with that is let's say we didn't aggregate it and we just continued on. And the next step here would be creating this content calendar. It would create 6 content calendars, 1 for every single post. And that's obviously not what we want. We don't want 6 content calendars. We want 1 content calendar with 6 posts. So instead of having 6 different posts, we bundle all those results together into one result, and we proceed forward. So we have all 6 results together, and now we're going to create a content calendar with all of those results. In the array aggregator, we're going to select all of the fields. So it's going to take all the information from the iterator, from these ChatGPT elements. It's going to bundle it all up nicely together so that we can use that moving forward for the rest of this automation. Now, what we need to do is come in here and create that template, right? So we're going to create a Google Sheet template. So in Google Sheets, I'm searching for template and it says create a spreadsheet from a template. And that is exactly what we're going to do here. So I'm going to start a new template here. I'm going to go to Google Sheets. Okay. And I'm going to start a new spreadsheet, and we're going to actually generate this template from scratch. Now, I just want to use one of these pre-built templates here, and this just popped up for me. So I'm going to use the table and featured, and I'm actually going to use the project tasks template. I kind of like this, you know, it looks nice. I'm going to insert this into my particular spreadsheet here. And I'll also link this down below in case you guys want to copy this as well, right? So this looks pretty good to me. Now, there's just a couple things I want to do here. I want to change this to date, and I want to change this to content, and I want to change this to image and status, draft, and lastly, notes here. Okay. And I'm going to delete all these other files. Now, you guys can add whatever it is that you want in here, but to me, this seems pretty good so far, right? So we have all of these things, and we need to post these particular results in here, right? So we'll have a date, and then we'll have content. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to delete all of this, and I'm going to change this to just plain text, so we get rid of those fields there. And I'm also going to change this just to plain text as well, so we get rid of all of these fields as well. So image, and then status, I'm going to change this as well. So it's going to be, let's see what statuses I have to do: in progress, complete. So I'm going to change this to those 3 statuses by clicking on one, hitting this edit button, and I'm going to do to do, in progress, and then complete. Sweet. I'll change the colors here too. Awesome. So those are the 3 statuses, and I'll copy this down. So those are, oops, all of the statuses it could potentially be. Okay, awesome. And I'll just delete that so that it's empty for now. And then draft, I'll also insert a drop down here, and this is going to be draft or published. And I'll change the colors here from draft and published, green or red. Looks good to me. And then any notes that you want to add in here as well, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll call this social media template test. And we need to reference this, right? So we're going to search from all the spreadsheets to find this. And how we do that is by referencing the spreadsheet ID. And the spreadsheet ID can be found in the URL, right? It's everything here after the d/ and before the edit, the /edit. You can just come in here and double click this and it should load the whole thing up, and we'll paste that in here. Okay, awesome. Now we'll go ahead, add a title in here. So let's just take a look and see what we can do here. And I'm just going to do like domain social media plan, and we'll save this into the drive as well. Now, with these values, what we need to do, and you can see I've got this error 403 permission denied. It's because I haven't chosen the right connection. So I'll go ahead and choose Jono Catlif, my main one here. And because we're creating a template here, what we really need to do is just map out all of these tags and replacement values. So kind of coming back in here, we'll select the sheet ID. There's really only one spreadsheet here. Oops, looks like there's actually two spreadsheets. So we'll delete this, and we'll also delete this. And it's going to be spreadsheet 1. Tag, let's just say, is date number 1. What we need to do is we need to grab the values and we need to pass it into the spreadsheet. So how we do that is by having these fields have a particular key, right? And with this value, it's going to find everything that has these double curly braces and inside that date 1, and it'll find this value, right? And it'll replace it with whatever value I put in this replaced field here. So what we're going to have to do, and this is a bit tedious if you want to use a custom template, but it's going to take a bit of time, but we have to map out all of these variables. There's going to be 6 posts, and there's going to be 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different fields. So there's going to be 36 different potential things that we have to map out for this example. You could alternatively just add rows into a spreadsheet, but honestly, I like the idea of having a template like this just because it looks way cleaner than if I just were to go dump it into a blank spreadsheet. I think this looks way, way, way nicer. I don't even think there's a comparison. I'll change the color here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy these, and I'll be right back as soon as I do that. Okay, so after a bit of time there, I managed to fill out all the templates. There was 36 that I had to fill out. So essentially, this is what the Google Sheet looks like, right? So you have 6 different social media posts, and you have to enter in custom variables for each post's date, content, image, status, draft, and notes. It has to follow. This is just default, by the way. This isn't something I created, but this is just standard to this, to automating like a template in Google Sheets. You have to use this, these double curly braces, right? So double curly braces, and then the text here, it can be whatever you want. So it could be like this _1, and that would work as well. It's just whatever's easiest for you to reference it by, right? So I chose date _1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 6, then content _1 to 6, image _1 to 6, status _1 to 6, and so on and so forth. Now, in the make.com scenario, then I found those variables by, say, for example, date 1. And you can see here it says the parameter already contains this delimiter. So user does not have to write a tag with it. So what that means is you don't have to enter that in. Like I don't have to find the variable like this, even though in this post it has the 2 squiggly brackets. You don't have to put it in. This is fine. This is going to find that for you. Right? So we have date 1, we're searching for date 1. And in this, this spreadsheet, we're going to replace date 1 with the value here. So it's finding the tag here and it's replacing it with this. And what this function is doing is it's adding a day past tomorrow, and then it's formatting it properly. So let's break down what this means. So in make.com, if you go over to the functions, and I have a whole course on functions in make.com. If you guys want to check out my channel, I break down every single one of these. But you can do this thing called add days here, right? And it takes in two inputs. The first input is whatever the date is that you want it to use. For the vast majority of the times I do this, I just put in now. So it's literally at the time of this recording, it's going to take Tuesday, August 27th at 8:38 p.m. As a time, right? And you can add days and also subtract days. So you could go in here and add 1, and it's going to return a value of Wednesday, August 28th at 8:38 p.m. If I did 2 days here, it would return Thursday, August 29th at 8:38 p.m. Also, you can do -1. So it could be Monday, August 26th. It goes back a day at 8:38 p.m. So we're just adding a day here, right? And we're formatting it. So we're putting this, we're copying this, and we're pasting it into a formatter. So in here we have format date, and we're passing this in here. And then we're adding in the format of the date that we want. So let's back up here for a second. Format date, okay? You can add 2 fields in here, right? The date that you want formatted and how you want that date formatted. So for example, I want the date formatted month, 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 day, day, year, year, year. What this would look like is like June 25th, 2024. That's kind of what the date would look like, but you can do any type of date that you want. If you hover over this, it's going to actually share with you a couple dates that you could get, right? So if you wanted a year, year, year dash month, month dash day, day, you could do that. There's tons of different formats, and you can go into the make.com docs to see what other formats you can do. Month, month slash day, day slash year, 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 year. And that will return a date similarly to this, right? Where it's like, oh, that scroll bar is in the way conveniently. It's like the month 12, December 28th, 2026, right? So we can format however we want. And then we can literally just paste this into this format. And how it works is you have these functions, right? And it's going to execute or finish the function inside before it goes outside. So think about this like when we paste this in, right? It adds up the days first, right? So it adds up now +1. So it adds up August 27th +1 is August 28th. And then it formats that date to something like this, right? June 25th, 2024, something like that. So that is essentially what we're doing with this function. And we're going through the dates and we're just saying, hey, the first date is due tomorrow. The second date is due 2 days from now. The third date is due 3 days from now, 4 days from now, 5 and 6 days from now. And then what we're doing is we're essentially passing in the text that we generated, right? And how we do that is we come into this array here, right? So flow control. So if we cancel out of this, we're grabbing all of the values from here. So remember, we're going through a list, first Instagram, then Facebook, grabbing all those, we're bundling it together, right? And now we have a list, if you see here, of this array here, but there's 6 values, right? So what we need to do is we need to go into the first value, and then we need to get the text from this first value. And then we need to go into the second value and get the text from the second value, and so on and so forth. So how we go about doing that is we have this, we just place the variable. It's called mapping, but we place the variable here. We grab this array and we're placing in the result here. Or I did it a longer way, but you could just do like results, for example. And there's a space in between here, right? And you can put 1 for the first result, and 2 for the second result, and 3 for the third result, right? So you can put 1 in there for the first result, 2 in there for the second result, 3 in there for the third result. And that's how you pull out the right value corresponding to that right post, right? So for example, in this, we have that array, and then we're looking through the first result to find the choices, messaging, content, right? So it goes choices, then messaging, and then content, right? Same thing for the second. We pull up the second value, then the third value, then the fourth value, the fifth, and the sixth. Same thing with the images. We find the first image, right? And then we go into its data in URL. You can see that there's two fields here. We're only generating one image. So this would always be 1 or 0. You can leave it blank because it's always going to pull in 1 for the first result anyways, right? But if you generated multiple images, you could pull the second image or the third image or the fourth image using that, right? But we can just leave that blank because we're only generating one image. And we're going through each result. First Instagram, pulling that. Second, we're pulling Facebook, and so on and so forth. So we went ahead and did that, added in all the images, and then also added in statuses just to do for everything, right? Only to do, and then for drafts, we just set everything to draft, and we left the notes as basic as possible, or there's just nothing for the notes. Now I ended up running this. It takes quite a while, right? The cool thing, like it takes a while to run, but the cool thing is you can do this in your sleep. So it's not like you're waiting for this by any means. And I generated the post here. So this is kind of what it looks like. So we have the days here, August 28th, 29th, 30th, 31, September 1st, September 2nd. You can kind of see the posts here, right? So this is kind of what it looks like for the first platform. And then here's the second platform. And then looks like it's actually pulling in the same post. Okay, and it totally pulled in the same results. That's absolutely hilarious. So you can actually see all of the results are the same. The reason why this is the case is because I chose the wrong module. So instead of selecting the results from here, I ended up selecting the summary from that web site that we scraped, right? So we went to every individual website, we pulled out a summary of their website, and I linked to that. So instead, what I should have done is linked to the content piece that we created. And as soon as I did that, I got a very different result. So instead of getting the same summary over and over and over again, we got different content here, and we got images and all that kind of stuff. I had like a minor heart attack. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, is this serious? Which is the case with make.com. It's really easy to make mistakes, right? So just be aware of that. But here's an Instagram post created. Emergency plumbing issues, we've got you covered 24/7. Life is unpredictable, but your plumbing server shouldn't be, so on and so forth. Let's take a look at this image that we just created here. Awesome. So that's pretty cool. We got the plumbing here. We got the next thing here, which is Facebook. And you can see here, I didn't actually put in the social media platform. So maybe what we can do here is we can add in another column here, and we can just do social media platform. We can add that in. And then you got the next one, which is the blog post, which is pretty cool. We can see the image here. So it's generating completely unique content as well as images. Okay, so awesome. That's great. That's really, really great. Last thing I want to do here is I just want to copy and paste a Instagram, or I want to have a column for social media. Or platforms here, right? So I'll go ahead and copy that in. Oops, let's just copy this, paste this, and we'll do platform. I'll just pause this for now, come back when I'm done. Okay, sweet. So I did add this back in. So I have this dropdown now for all of these different platforms, and I put in platform 1 to 6. And then also in the spreadsheet down below, I just added in the platform, right? So you just kind of map in through the array the particular platform that you want. You could just literally type in platform up here, and it's going to filter down, and you can just add in, for example, platform. And just in here, you put in the position 1 to 6, whatever it may be, and we're good to go there, right? So for what we're gonna do here is because we ran it one time, we're gonna grab all these results here, right? We're gonna download the output, just copy everything here. We're gonna then go ahead and create a JSON file here, right? And I just switched over to this just to save me a bit of time here. But essentially what we did was we added a module, and that module is JSON, right? It's JSON and parse JSON. And we're just going to connect in here just so you guys can see what this looks like. And I just pasted those results in, right? So I copied those results, everything from here, downloaded it all, copied everything from here, brought it in here. clicked OK, right? And essentially, we're going to take this module. I'll just go ahead and delete this. I'm not going to delete this. I take that back. This is all queued up and it's ready to go. But effectively, I just created this module, put it as the trigger, right? So just think about this as the trigger here. These are the exact same modules. And what I did is I just essentially hooked up all of this data output to this JSON trigger, which is a carbon copy of this array aggregator. So I'm just copying this data to here. And the reason I'm doing that, once again, is because this takes like 2 or 3 minutes or 4 or 5 minutes to run. If I wanted to run this scenario 10 times, it could easily take me an hour, right? So I'm just chunking it out bit by bit so that I don't have to wait, 3 minutes for the web scrapers to go through, another 5 minutes for these AI agents to complete, right? I can just fire it immediately and I don't have to wait, which is awesome because it's just going to save so much freaking time when you're going through this and debugging it like we're doing right now. So I'll go ahead and I'll run this scenario and it's going to generate this template here, right? I'm going to come to the output here and I'm going to look at the web version here. Let's take a look at the results now. So here's the results. Pretty cool stuff. I'm just going to essentially take all of these when this eventually loads and removing column 1. And we're just going to compress this down just so that we can get a better view on it. Okay, sweet. So here it is. We got the platform content, image, status, draft, and any notes that maybe they want to put in here. So that's really, really cool, right? Now what we want to do is we want to take this particular content calendar that we've just created, and we want to send it to the client, right? We want to take their email and send all of that over. Now, what we need to do is we need to find this file in the drive here, right? So when you create this template, it's automatically going to be saved into your drive, right? So what we need to do is we need to find or search for files and folders. And we're going to make sure that the most important thing with this module is you just got to make sure that the connection you're using is the exact same as the connection in this Google Sheet. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to find. So for example, in my case, it wasn't the right connection, right? So I'm going to switch over to my business account because I believe you need to have a business account in order to find this. But we're going to make sure both modules in this instance have the same connection, right? And then we'll enter, we'll select the method is going to be enter manually, and we're going to retrieve files, and we're going to search for within file or names. So we're going to retrieve a file, right? And that file we're going to search for with file or folder names. And in the query, all we have to do is pass in the name of this spreadsheet. So just make sure it's unique, right? And once that name is unique, there's only one Google Sheet with that name in it, and we can just simply search for that Google Sheet name. So let's go ahead and let's take a look and see what we can find here. So name is emergency router.com social media planner, right? So also we want to limit this to 1, right? In case you do have multiple things that it pulls up, we only want to find one particular instance of this. We don't want to be sending multiple spreadsheets to the client. Okay, so the next step is once we've searched for this particular file in Google Drive, what we're going to do is we want to share it with the client, right? So if we come back into the Google Sheets module here, you can't just share it directly with somebody, right? So unfortunately, if you were to pass this link on, like if I was to, pass on this web link here and somebody else was to open it up, they wouldn't have access to it. Like I have access to it because this is in my account, but somebody else, they just wouldn't have access to it, right? So what we're doing is we're finding this Google Sheet in Google Drive as soon as you create a Google Sheet is automatically going to be stored in your drive, right? So you don't have to worry about that. We find the file, and then we need to share that file. So we're going to click share, get a share link, and we're just passing the the file ID in here, right? So the file ID is going to be right here. File ID into file ID, and we're going to keep them as a user, and we have to include their email address. Now, if I just type in the @ symbol, you can pull in the email here, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm not going to include this person's email because I don't want to send them a random email, right? I'm just going to include my own email here, and you can see send notification email. I'm just going to click no for now, no expiration, their user, reader, all of this is good to go. All the defaults are fine, right? We can click OK. Now, if I run this, just keep in mind too, that because I switched this account, right, I don't currently have access to this template, right? So what I would have to do to get access to it is I'd have to share it with myself. Now, I already went ahead and I shared it with myself, but in case this happens to you guys and this runs into an error and you don't have access to this, or for whatever reason this pulls up an error, just make sure that you always have the right account to have, the right account that's creating this, template off of this Google Sheet also has access to this Google Sheet, because if you don't have access to this template, you're not going to access it and be able to duplicate it. So just keep that in mind too. Okay, sweet. So we've pretty much found the file in Google Drive and we've shared it. And we're just going to do 2 more steps to wrap up here. We're going to generate an audio file here. And this is really, really cool. So instead of just sending a typical email, we're actually going to send an audio file to that person and be like, hey, I came across your site and I like what you do. And I just realized you don't have a strong social media presence online. I want to give you a content calendar so that you can potentially use the content and the publishing schedule and the images to publish on your site. So anything you put in input will be automatically generated into audio here. So we're just going to be like, hey, Jono, and you just put in the name of the person. Now, keep in mind, I'm just going to put in my name here, but you should have access to this kind of stuff if you go back far enough. Like the problem is when we're kind of working through this module, we only have access to this particular JSON parser, right? But all the way back at the first module, we actually scraped these results off of Apify. So maybe if you go into one of these particular, profiles, they might have information, contact, they might have their like personal information, like their first name. Maybe you can use that, or you can use the company name here. In this case, it's Drain King Plumbers. That sounds weirdly sexual, but okay. Just moving on. That cracks me up. So anyways, back to here, we'll just put in the input. Hey, Jono, it's Jono from Jono Marketing. That's way too many Jonos in a row. That's crazy. Okay. So, hey, Jono, it's Jono from Jono Marketing. I just came across your site and realized you don't spend a ton of time on social media marketing. I wanted to put together a content calendar and send it your way for free with social media posts and images. Would love to know your thoughts on this. Have a great day. So this is going to be converted automatically into text. And then the speech to text module, I just put TTS-1. To be honest, I actually don't know what all these differences do. But the cool thing is in the voice, this is going to change how it sounds, right? So it might sound more masculine, feminine, or so on and so forth. You could put alloy, shimmer, whatever, right? It's just going to change the sound of the voice, right? Now, with the output, just make sure the output is a different name every single time, because it might overwrite the past file. How we can do that is we just need to potentially grab the file ID here, right? And that's it. We just naming it after the file ID. Maybe if you wanted to, we could even put the name of the sheet here. So whatever name we're creating for the sheet, we can put it in here, just so that if you look at it later on, you're like, the hell are those digits? You have something to compare it to. So put the name, which is emergencyrouter.com social media plan. And then we're going to put the ID here. And just one quick thing here, I want to replace all these spaces here with dashes, right? Just so it saves properly, just in case that is an issue. We can come into the text field here and we can put in the replace. We can put in the replace function here. So with replace, it takes in 3 variables. The first is the text, right? So that's going to be the name here. It's going to be like whatever social media calendar. So we can put that in here. The second thing is what we actually want to replace. And then the third is what we want to replace it with. So for example, in this, it says hello world. It's going to replace hello with hi, right? So the outcome will be hi world. So in this case, let's enter in space because we want to replace a space, and what we replace that with is a dash, right? So it's going to put like emergencyrouter.com dash social dash media dash plan dash ID number, and this will be unique every single time. We can click OK. And last module in this whole tutorial is we are going to use Gmail, and we're going to send an email. And once again, you would just put in the email of the person you're sending it to, which in this case would be web@emergencyrouter.com. But just in my case, I don't want to bother these guys, so I'm just going to send it to myself. And you can use whatever kind of subject line you want, but I'm just going to use social media calendar 4, and I'm going to pull in the name of the company here. So let's just see here. And once again, if you just reference the previous Apify scrapers, this should come up no problem. It's just that when I'm referencing with a cutoff of this, it only extends back to this JSON module here. There's not too much to work with, but if you connected it all together, it would work just fine. So maybe what I'll do here is I'll just put the domain. Awesome. So it'll be social media content or social media calendar for emergencyrouter.com. And the content here, I'm just going to actually copy and paste it from this email in here. So it'll say, hey, Jono, and you got all these weird kind of characters here, right? I'm just going to click OK and save this. It's save anyways. Zoom in here. So you got all these weird characters, BR / with the hats in between. So the deal here is that unfortunately with Gmail, you can't just have like a line break like this. You have to put in a line break in HTML. This is the line break in HTML. So anytime you want to have a line break, in this case, I have 2 line breaks, just put a BR there and it'll work totally fine. So, hey, Jono, I recently visited your website and noticed an opportunity to enhance your social media presence. To help you get started, I've created a personalized content calendar for you, complete with suggested content, images, and scheduling. I hope this resource makes it easier for you to engage with your audience and grow your online presence. You can access it here. Sweet. And we'll just get the share link here. So share link, and we will paste it down here. Sweet. So now they'll have access to it. If you have any questions or would like to discuss it further, how to implement this, feel free to reach out. Best regards, Jono. And last thing here is we'll attach. You notice that as soon as I click attach there, right, it just automatically attaches that ChatGPT email or that voice memo there. And that's it, right? We're good to go. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to run this once, and we're going to see how this works. So we're creating the template, right? We're going to find that template. We're going to share it. We're going to generate an AI voice response. And then we just emailed ourselves. Okay, sweet. So I'm going to come back in here and let's take a look at one of these results. So here we go. Looks pretty good. And take a look at this content calendar. Sweet. So we have the content calendar here with all the different posts, all the different images that you can come in and take a look at, right? That's super cool. And then back here, we have this AI voice generator. So they might be like, oh, they left me a voicemail.
It's Jono from Jono Marketing. I just came across your site and realized you don't spend a ton of time on social media marketing. I want to put together content calendar and send it your way for free with social media posts and images. Would love to know your thoughts on this. Have a great day.
Sweet. And that's it, guys. Like, we've created from start to finish a full workflow that you can automatically scrape leads, and you can grab those leads and you can automatically create a social media content calendar for them with AI generated content, AI generated images. And then you can send them an email with that content calendar with an AI generated voice recorder. Now, just last thing I kind of want to touch base on here is this is the workflow that's done. For this to get started, all you have to do is just connect these back in, right? So instead of having, this module parse JSON here, you just remove this, you remove this, and you remove this. So there's 3 different parse JSON things that you're just gonna have to remove from it. And effectively, you just want to sync it back up, right? So if some of these future modules depend on this JSON, right, like this one does, and there's a lot that depend on it, you just want to make sure that these results are no longer coming from the JSON, but the object that this JSON was mirroring. So in this case, this was just mirroring the array aggregator here. So you're just grabbing the information from here and putting it into the Google Sheet instead of the JSON. But effectively, guys, that's it. I hope you found this useful. Good luck trying to get tons of leads online for pretty much next to no cost. If you enjoyed content like this, make sure to subscribe down below. It really, really, really helps me out. If you guys have comments, leave it down below too. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you have any interest in consulting or you want to set up systems like this, you can reach out to me at any point in time. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.